Phillips calls for a probe of farm road rehabilitation program. So apparently the program was to rehabilitate farm roads in and around the country, not just St. Thomas. But if you are going on the reports, it is suggesting that in St. Thomas alone, from a program that a budgetary amount of $470 million was slated, there was spending that amount to 1.6 billion Jamaican dollars. There are calls for the Auditor General to conduct a full financial audit of the Rehabilitation of Farm Roads program undertaken by the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, Rada. According to reports, the overall budgetary provision for farm roads island-wide, not only in St. Thomas, across the entire island, was approximately $470 million that should have covered the period 2017 to 2018. But in St. Thomas alone, total contracts were prepared in the amount of Jamaican $1.6 billion in that same year for bushing only, not road rehabilitation, not road patching, not road widening, not drainage infrastructure, but bushing. Investigations, according to the PNP, has revealed that the job rates in the Rada contracts were disproportionate with the rate being paid by the NWA, which is the National Works Agency, for the same work. I do not know why Rada would have been given the go-ahead oversee road rehabilitation when the National Works Agency is the entity that is responsible for that. The bushing contracts were done at a rate of $10,380,000 per kilometer under the Rada Farm Road program, in contrast to the NWA's rate of $150,000 per kilometer for bushing, reflecting a difference of over 6,000%. The PNP is suggesting that they have evidence that in two instances, $10,380,000 was spent to debush 1 kilometer of roadway. I don't know if it's debush or to rehabilitate. It in a specify, but a bush is a bushing contract. The NWA, which is a government agency with responsibility for the rehabilitation, reconstruction, and construction of roadways in the country, is going at a rate of 150,000 Jamaican dollars per kilometer. It is suggested that the PNP can confirm that at least two instances where bushing was paid for at this scandalous rate, and they say they have the evidence and are preparing to submit it to the Auditor General. There are major concerns about diversion of funds and overall mismanagement of the program, which came to light after the Auditor General's report to Parliament in October. According to the findings of the Auditor General's report, there was an abandonment of procurement and oversight practices, which led to negative consequences in value for money. The Auditor General is saying Rada, for whatever reason, would have abandoned procurement and oversight practices, which would have led to negative consequences in terms of value for money. There was an absence of transparency in the selection process. The failure to provide specifications and scope of work in the contracts limited the ability to measure against the contracts and hold contractors accountable and liable. Basically, this is suggesting that in those fake contracts that was provided by Rada to whosoever they would have given the work to, the contracts to, there were no specifications provided in the contracts as to exactly what you're supposed to do. On the face of it, these breaches point to a serious pattern of misuse of public funds. Additionally, based on investigations by the opposition Shadow Minister of Agriculture, Victor Wright, it would appear that these procedures and breaches were designed specifically to facilitate a scandalous misuse of public funds of massive proportions. The opposition is calling for an audit, supposedly by the Auditor General, I guess, which they say should include who was money paid to. So the payment of funds, who received the funds, and for what was the funds paid for in terms of the work that was done, and to find those who are culpable. The PNP, through its leader, is also calling on the major organized crime and anti-corruption agency MOCA to undertake a thorough forensic investigation of what he calls a massive scheme to steal public funds. The opposition leader said that Prime Minister Andrew Holness should relieve Ministers Audley Shaw and J.C. Hutchinson, who have portfolio responsibility for Rada, of their duties until the investigations are complete. The PNP is also calling for the authorities' Board of Management to step aside in the interest of such investigation. In the meantime, Nigel Myrie, who is the chairman of Rada, has rejected the opposition's allegations about the Farm Road Rehabilitation Program. Rada chairman and agricultural specialist Nigel Myrie is rejecting as absurd, ridiculous, and false allegations made by Dr. Peter Phillips and the People's National Party. The Rada chairman says the claim by Dr. Phillips that $1.6 billion was corruptly spent by the entity in St. Thomas under its Farm Road Rehabilitation Project during the 2018 fiscal year is untrue. Mr. Myrie says that amount is close to the total spent by Rada under the program for the entire country. Mr. Myrie says, contrary to what the PNP officials alleged, only $31 million was spent by Rada in St. Thomas during the fiscal year 2017-2018. The Rada chairman says that the claim by the opposition leader is false. He says he is taking steps, he and Rada has been taking steps to address issues raised in the recent Auditor General's report. I'll share the Auditor General report with you in a few. Don't move. He said the value of the program for the last 4 years since 2015 has been $1,724,739,000. It's a lot of money that. For work done nationally and not in any one parish or constituency. He said the Accountant General's report dated October 2019 confirms this. Mr. Myrie added that no contract under the program was issued solely for bushing, but included paving, patching, and grading. Rather under fire, Auditor General cites contract missteps in multi-million-dollar road projects. This now is not the PNP speaking. This is not now anymore politicking and politicking. This is the Auditor General speaking. A performance audit by the Chief Guardian of the State Expenditure has uncovered practices by the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, Rada, in which the agency has paid scant regard to government guidelines in awarding of contracts valuing hundreds of millions of dollars. This report was tabled in Parliament in late October of this year. This now, and no speculation, this now, and no suggestion, these are the facts. The Pamela Monroe-led Auditor General's Department, in a report tabled in Parliament in October, stated that Rada's process of selecting contractors was not always transparent or competitive. Over the period 2015-2016 to 2018-2019, Ms. Monroe Ellis said her department reviewed 112 road rehabilitation contracts valued at $1.6 billion. So the $1.6 billion was actually mentioned and stated in the Auditor General's report, but noted that Rada used the local competitive bidding methodology for only 4 contracts valued a mere $90.8 million. So of the $1.6 billion that was spent, only 4 of the 112 contracts for road rehab that cost $1.6 billion, only 4 of those contracts was issued using the local competitive bidding methodology, costing only $90.8 million of a protracted spend of $1.6 billion. At the same time, Rada utilized the limited tender methodology for 75 contracts, valuing at $1.4 billion. Rada was unable to indicate the basis on which contractors were pre-selected for invitation to bid on road rehabilitation contract. Additionally, in 6 instances, Rada used the LT, which is the limited tender methodology, to award contracts valuing $129.8 million Jamaican dollars, despite procurement guidelines not being met. This denied other qualified contractors the opportunity to participate in the procurement process, the Auditor General observed. The Agriculture Agency also utilized the direct procurement and emergency methodologies for 33 contracts, amounting to over $500 million, $520 million, although the allowable circumstances permitting the direct emergency procurement methodologies were not met. Giving details, Monroe Ellis said that in 25 of the 33 direct and emergency contracts, valuing at $401 million, Rada's justification for the use of these methodologies did not conform with the procurement guidelines. An examination of tender evaluation reports for the 112 contracts showed no evidence that Rada assessed bidders to determine whether they met the minimum qualifying criteria in compliance with the instruction to bidders and procurement guidelines. It was reported that Rada's own internal audit found instances during site inspections carried out in February of 2018 where roads that were rehabilitated in late 2017 had begun to show signs of deterioration within 3 months after rehabilitation. The audit divulged that Rada did not provide any evidence it conducted a pre-qualification exercise of potential bidders for the limited tender contracts in accordance with the government guidelines. There were also questionable decisions in relation to priority lists for roads to be rehabilitated. So were the roads for rehabilitation concentrated in specific constituencies of specific persons, of specific influence, of specific political persuasion and affiliation and alignment and confinement? At the request of the Auditor General, Rada provided its approved list of farm roads prioritized for rehabilitation during the period 2017-2018 and 2018-2019, along with the reports of roadworks completed during the same period. An assessment of the priority list for both years revealed the inclusion of roads leading to Rada's parish offices in St. Mary and St. Anne. Apparently, these roads are not rural farm roads. The Auditor General found no evidence where Rada consulted with the municipal corporation in both parishes for possible cost sharing. Another issue which triggered concern for the Auditor General was the high incidence of rescoping or variation of contracts. Ms. Monroe Ellis pointed out that in 53 instances, specification for drainage was either reduced or omitted, despite Rada's record showing that the entity had identified that the quality of road could be easily undone by rainfall owing to inadequate drainage.
Teach them! Hey, yo, hello! Send the message and make it reach them. It's teach them. Right here, Warlord representing.
Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment below. Remember to like and share the video. Don't forget to subscribe for more awesome content. Follow me on social media and check out the suggested videos on screen. This is Teach saying, until next time, walk good, my friends.